This is Fam Electric Ghost, and we're live on the air for the first time with Devorah Hake Brinckerhoff, right?
Brinckerhoff, you
I
got
didn't
it.
mess it up, right? I did as best I could. uh, I want to thank you for being on the show. This is the first time we're talking to you. And to let people know, I do have a QR code for your website. We do see your website up here. So that's soulportrait.art inner voice. That QR code, if you scan it with your phone, people can check that out because they can't type that in right now, or you can't click on the actual link. But we like to we have this new thing where we're using the QR codes for people to actually be able to immediately check out your site as we're talking, so they could look at that.
Great.
But I want to welcome you to the show. And how you doing tonight?
I'm doing so well. Thanks for having me.
Well, one of the first things we always talk to anybody before we get to our heart of your story is we ask a couple questions like, what motivates you and why do you do what you do?
Well, I think it does me, right? I don't feel like I had a huge choice in the matter. I have always been creativity, drawing and painting were my first language. And I was much more comfortable with a pencil or a blade or a brush in my hand than I was writing or reading or talking. So now I've come a long way because now I can have a conversation about it. Whereas before it was really a struggle to try and put to words the creative process. But to answer your question, like I follow it, and it has been a guiding, powerful force in my life.
Well, I think it's interesting. When I talk to a lot of creative people, a lot of people talk about like how they get inspired, and I've talked to artists talk about like a download, or
Yeah.
they talk about the muse,
Yeah.
or they talk about like the universe, and they happen to be very. I think artists, when I talk to creators, they tend to be very observant of
Yes.
not only what's going on outside of themselves,
Uh-huh.
but what goes on within themselves.
Yes.
And I think what artists are able to do, like talk to painters, you talk to musicians, maybe just aren't like vocal musicians, but create like soundscapes, or they don't speak with their voice, they speak with their instrument.
That's right. That's
And a
exactly.
lot of times it's like because they can pull the emotions of the inner self and the outer world and synthesize it. And that is something that they do regardless of whether they're going to be famous or make money, because they like have to do it.
They have
It
to.
seems to be something it's just part of who they are.
Yes. So much so that I didn't realize it. Like it was just it is such a natural part of how I move through the world that I had no idea, that other people didn't do that. And I still think they do. They just don't access it or know how to access it. I think we're all capable of tapping into creativity. But I didn't know what I was doing. I was just doing it.
Yeah. But I think a lot of times as a musician, I started very young. Like when I was like 6 or 7,
Yeah.
getting into things, and it just like it went from like wind instruments to keyboards and synthesizers, and I got into sound design. But it was just something I felt like I needed to take what was inside of me and channel it, and I found a way with my hands
That's right.
to be able to channel it in a way that I couldn't do with the pen. I wrote poetry,
Yeah.
and I wrote lyrics, but what you can do with an instrument or what you can do with a paintbrush,
Right.
when I talk to like different types of artists, or even
Yeah.
like an actor, what they can do with their body,
Right.
what they can do. Like if you talk to an actor, it's like a lot of what they say is like, it's like what I don't say.
Yeah.
It's what I do with my eyes. It's what I do with the way I move my hands. It's the nonverbal stuff
That's exactly
that
right.
is the art.
That's exactly right. That's really well said. That is the art. It's
It's just interesting because it's like spirit and your heart and the soul. I think for a lot of people in the world, if they're in they're not in the arts, maybe they go to the spiritual side, but it's like they don't know how to actually describe those things. But artists, it's embedded in what we do.
it is embedded. And I also didn't know that it had a spiritual component to it. I was raised in a family where spirituality was like a bad word, and religion would probably put you in jail. So I was really afraid to acknowledge that actually creativity is the flow state feels like you're tapping into your divinity. I feel, and that's took me a long time to be like, I had to admit to that. And now I'm just so grateful for it because, and again, I didn't know that I had this with me all along. And it's been it's the best relationship there is the one that we have with ourselves and the one that I access through creativity. And it sounds like you do the same thing. It's where you meet yourself in the music studio, in the sound. It touches that place in you that goes, oh yeah, I just expressed there are no words for it. Like there really aren't words for it.
Yeah. I think it's like a lot of times what I find is that the inner voice or the what you're trying to find with your art is like that flow state. To me, flow state, I'm a musician. I could read the bars.
Yep.
I learned how to read composition like I read Chopin or Bach or whatever. But what I found was when I first started writing when I was young, I tried to just write like what I thought I was supposed to do. I put it on the page and
Uh-huh.
document it and put it on the sheets. And then what I found is like once I actually started really working on it, that I would actually throw that away. That I
Exactly.
would end up going into like something that was beyond the page
Yep.
and capture the space between the notes, like what I'm
Exactly.
trying to get at, like the discordance or the timing changes or the colors, and I got the ideas of like sound painting, like
Yes.
actually expressing yourself with more than just the sound, but it actually represents color or visuals or feelings or emotions. And I think that's where you start to say, hey, yeah, there is something that's like spiritual or universal or you know the Native Americans like Gaia. Like I'm in touch with Gaia. I'm in touch with the wind spirits, the fire spirits, the eagle spirit of the eagle, the spirit of the spirit animal. Like I'm in tune with it. I'm picking something up.
Yes.
And that's hard for some people to say, well, how do you define that? Well, it's hard to define.
Yeah, you can't. It's a knowing, right? You have a knowing. And I love what you said about how, like, at first, when we're young and we're learning how to write the language or express the language, whether it's visual or audio, um, there's a lot of I don't want to say copying exactly, but that's a part of it. In the beginning, it's learning as you go, and then there's something else that comes online when and after you surrender what you think you should do, and it becomes following something that's part of your intuition and that's internal. And I love that because it's so empowering. It takes it back and it says, who am I underneath it all? And that's your uniqueness. That's your voice, whether
Yeah.
it's through instrument or visuals or whatever it is, it's your specific fingerprint. And and so you're saying like the silence between notes or the space between letters. And for me in visual language, it's what's around the form and it's called negative space. And I
Mhm. Yeah.
absolutely love it, right?
Negative
So
space. Yeah.
and so you're not like drawing just the model or whatever it is, or your still life, you're drawing what's around it. That's how form is created. We see a tree because of the sky through
Around it,
it,
yeah, the
right?
backgrounds, everything. Like, that's where a lot of people get so narrowly focused.
Yeah.
They miss they miss the point, right? They
Mhm.
miss the script. They like a lot of times they're like because we have so much tech today, I can overlayer a song.
Yeah.
I can actually do too much.
Sure.
And a lot of times what you go back to, like I like using old gear where I
Yeah.
don't have a undo button, right? Like I actually go right to tape.
Yeah.
And it
I
is
love
that
that.
piano chord is what it is,
Yeah.
and I can't fix it. Maybe
Exactly.
sonically I can embellish it, but I can't actually change the notes. But a lot of times with the tech today, you can go and change everything you did.
Yeah.
And then you get into this thing where I think it's like when a musician goes and they do 100 takes of a song, and the producer and the engineer say, really take 4 was really it. And
Yeah.
ever since take 4, you've been destroying the idea. You
It's
know,
so true. It's so true. And like when we do destroy it, I'm like, oh, that's actually so perfect because that's the realness. That's the humanness. We are full of fallibility and mistakes and how and in the world that we live in today, we've really lost touch with our imperfection as perfection. And that the duality is I never want to lose it, right? Like I can get all up in my head, and that's the problem, right? Let's sink down into the heart, let's follow what's inside and go from there. And if it sucks, it sucks. And that's
yeah,
also how we
okay.
learn, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like the happy accident to me. It's
Yeah.
like I have a dual kind of hat. Like I work in software design.
Oh wow.
And software, so it's left, right brain because like very
Yeah.
logical. It's like
Yeah.
pinned down. But even in that logic, there's creativity. In
Absolutely.
design of software, we sometimes the happy accident. It's kind of like a mad scientist. Like you go and do something. You like you had a plan, but you did something accidentally. You found this,
Exactly.
and what you found is actually better than the project plan.
Which is, I think,
And
the
that's kind of
whole
like
point.
that's the point. Is like sometimes you're sitting there noodling, you hit the record button, and what your noodle is the song,
Exactly.
right? But you were just practicing, and that's why
Exactly.
you end up putting down everything. You
Yeah.
end up recording everything because you have no idea like that rehearsal or this warming up could be the thing.
That's right. And permission, like to give ourselves permission to experiment and not have it be shiny and perfect. Nobody is shiny and perfect out of the gate. None of us. And there's so much to offer when we're not trying. Uh, yeah,
Yeah, because sometimes you're looser. Like if you're not trying to like do the final take, you might try something that really, well, that's really what you should be doing.
exactly. It's where the
Instead of
magic
trying to
happens.
be perfect, like you actually be a little looser and you're like, oh, maybe I'll play with that chord change, or I'll play with that different key, or
Yeah,
I'll play with a micro timing. And you play with ideas that were like in your subconscious, kind of like a waking dream. I think what I've seen with artists is we can call our subconscious like in real time,
yeah,
right? We can pull from the subconscious kind of like a waking dream
yeah.
that you have in your sleep that you can call in real time in the day during the daytime. And it's like this pivot between
Oh,
what is outside yourself and what's inside yourself.
I
And
love
you know what's happening in the room, in the air, what you're smelling at the moment,
that.
what you heard gets input. It's an input
Yeah,
to what you're doing, plus the stuff that's in your subconscious that you're able to call because you kind of broke down the wall.
yeah,
That a person who says they can't create has put up a wall
that's
where
right.
they don't hear themselves
That's
and
right.
they can't hear what's outside themselves.
That's right.
And so they're kind of lost in this
That's
thing where
right.
I saying, "Oh, I can't connect." Where the artist is able to make those connections that I think everybody could. It's
Right.
just they've kind of put a ceiling on yourself that you can't because
Yeah.
you've told yourself you can't.
Right. This the ceiling called fear. That's a you said that really well. I agree with you 100%. Yeah. That's great. Very true.
Because like the imprisonment of our like we can get imprisoned in our own kind of mechanisms. Like you could put yourself as like, well, I am a blues artist.
Right.
I am a like bebop jazz artist. So
Right.
then you put yourself in a canon, you put yourself in that lane. And what if you go outside the lane?
Right.
Are you breaking the rules?
Right.
And like, are you now outside? Like what happened with like you think about like Miles Davis. He was like the king of bebop. He kind of set the standard of what jazz is,
Yeah.
right? In the 50s. And
Yep.
people say, well, that even today in the school, people think that is jazz,
Right.
his early work. And then he suddenly does fusion and people say, oh, that's not really jazz. There's some people that argue, like they want to argue and have a big argument. It's like,
Right.
well, if the guy who created the canon decides to break the canon, what's wrong with that?
Totally. And it lets us know what's possible. It's just more expansion. And somebody might find their deepest heart in what in a broken rule, quote unquote, right?
Yeah, but you got to put your 10,000 hours in to kind of get your expertise, to get that muscle memory, that
I
like your hand and your brush, like you got that ability to like actually do what you want to do, right? But also sometimes you want to be able to say, hey, maybe that brush stroke wasn't what I intended,
right.
but it actually is what's needed.
Right. And the discernment between the two and knowing when to use which is, I think, more than half of the process. Um, and making those mistakes. But that's an interesting question too, because like I've I've been a part of curating shows, and we all have to come into agreement on what is quote unquote worthy of being in the show and what
Mhm.
isn't. And so people all the time, especially having been in the gallery world, you know, there are galleries that would say yes, we want you, and many more that would say no, we don't. And so what is good art, right? Like what is good art? What is good music? What
Discernment,
is good
yeah. It's
dance, right?
whoever the gatekeepers are.
Well, but also like how can we actually determine it, because it's how you feel, isn't it? Like
Yeah,
when you feel something, whether it's music or dance or visual arts or whatever it is, isn't that the ultimate sort of determining factor of what is good, is how it makes you feel. Like if you feel something, it doesn't
yeah.
even have to be positive, right? It can
Yeah, if
be,
you feel something, if you're like, I'm dead set against expressionism, I don't like it.
yeah,
Or like I don't like if somebody goes and watercolors is not my thing, right? But
right.
then suddenly somebody makes it my thing because like, oh, the way this person approached it, now I like it. I didn't
Well,
really like anything else, but it's kind of like how it makes you feel,
right.
like you said.
But like I, for example, am not a fan of death metal. And I don't think there's going to be a time in my life
You'll
when I
find out that
feel
it
in
breaks
this,
through.
like maybe, right? I never say never. But the fact that I have a strong reaction to it, even if it's like, no, thank you, I'm like, oh, they're doing something powerful. It
Yeah,
is still powerful.
and there's a whole bunch of people like Law of Attraction that they're total fans of that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a big fan of, like, Lou Reed, right? And his
Hmm.
Velvet Underground work, and, like,
Yep.
that is very much like, there are certain people that can't get into that, like, they can't get into Bob Dylan's voice.
Right. Right.
But there's a whole generation of musicians that were inspired about what Lou Reed did with his spoken word work. Like,
Yep.
what he did with the Velvets, it showed you that you could have a band that wasn't talking about what is commonly talked about as a songwriter. That you
Right.
could go into the dark underbelly of New York and talk about it like of somebody writing a novel,
Right.
and you can go into subjects that weren't normally okay
Acceptable. Right.
for music,
Right.
and so that it opened up a whole different path. Even if you didn't agree with the way he did it,
Right.
there are people that said, wow, that opened up the door for
Right.
different types of music. So
Yes.
that in itself is like, might not be a fan of Dylan, but you can realize the guy won a like Pulitzer Prize.
Holy cow, yes.
Yeah.
And the risk, right? That he followed himself, he took a risk, and he blew open the entire industry. And there are those pivotal people along the way who are following something inside themselves that was bigger than the fear of not doing it. And I am so impressed by that.
Yeah, 'cause I mean, the Dylan, I always just people say, "Oh, he can't sing," but, like, you know how many voices he has?
I
You know how
know.
many different characters he has, from the nasal character to the Woody Guthrie to,
Yeah,
like, singing with, like, when he was with Johnny Cash. It's like Nashville Skyline doesn't sound like anything else.
yeah,
Like, you have kinda caricatures of himself. You think he will do, and so that in itself is like, you're saying he can't sing, but, like, I would argue that he actually is very good at
absolutely.
doing it, and can he creates a character,
Yep.
like a guy who's an actor, who's a
Yeah.
method actor. He gets into the character,
Yeah.
and that in itself is like something that people didn't really think about.
Yep.
But every singer does that. I mean, Frank Sinatra was in his character,
Yeah.
you know, in like all the great singers, they have a characterization. They have like this stage self.
Yes.
And then it's like when you go in, get into that zone as an artist, you get into like your zone of your your creativity, like what you're trying to do in your phase. Like you might be in a certain phase
Right.
within what you're doing, and then suddenly, you could have a lot of people that are into that phase.
Yes.
As soon as you go to another phase, they're like, "Oh, what are you doing? I like only like
I
I
like
only
the
like it
old
when you're in this phase."
one. Yeah, I like you better when. Yeah, absolutely.
And like you determine what phase really appeals to, like what you want to focus on. And
Yeah.
sometimes your audience doesn't follow you. At least that one group doesn't follow you from one phase to the next.
Yeah.
And it's okay. Right? Law of attraction, that people follow you who that resonates with them, or it
Yeah.
doesn't.
Yeah.
Maybe you have a new frontier. And now suddenly you have this group of people that used to follow you, and now you have a new group of people who follow you. That's fine.
Yeah.
You don't always have to stay in the same zone.
Isn't it better if we don't? Right? Isn't that where expansion happens?
Yeah, that's I wondered. Like in art today, could we have so much business that's involved in some art, especially in the music industry, especially like there's certain this is the only thing that's gonna work. You have to run this formula, you have to run this algorithm, you have to run and so there are people like, well, I'm not really gonna do that.
Right.
I'm gonna do what speaks to my heart.
Right.
And like, well, sometimes you won't be commercially successful. Some
Right.
projects won't be commercially successful because it's like, well, that's not what I'm trying to get at. I'm actually might be trying to get to a new place.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily mean that this is monetarily successful, but for me as an artist, it was very successful.
That's right.
I don't know if people understand that within a capitalist type of mindset. There's like, oh, everything's judged by like whether or not you actually got in the gallery or actually sold the painting or if you got this commission. But like, what do you think about that type of thing? You have to pay the bills, but also you have to reach where your heart is.
Well, I found that, so, I mean, I chose to leave the galleries because it wasn't fulfilling. It didn't feel purposeful or meaningful. And you mentioned the word gatekeeper before, and there is a certain aspect of gatekeeping within the traditional art sense. And again, it's still super subjective, but there's so much judgment within creativity. And, this is a terrible painting or this is a fabulous painting. And I'm like, well, like it all became a wash. Like, so, and if a particular painting, like I could never paint, like do it this way. I just couldn't do that. I never could. And my work, I think people would say that people tell me all the time, oh, I'm not where you're at. And I'm like, where am I at? I'm following something else. And if I tried to do what you wanted me to do, inevitably, so let's just say I painted a painting and it always comes from the same place, which is inside of me. And if I tried to either do something more commercial or that would be more pleasing, it would never work. Even if a painting did really, really well and they wanted me to do it again, I would repeat it, but it's not the same painting.
Yeah.
It could still sell and sell well, but doing it again and trying to replicate something is boring. Like it's so boring.
It's really mind-numbing. It's just because a lot of times, like as a musician, sometimes your earlier work is like work you did when you're like 17.
Yeah.
Or you're 21.
Yeah.
That resonates with your audience, right? And it's time you get 35, 45, like you're in a different spot.
Mm-hmm.
But they still want you doing what you did when you were 17 or 21.
Right.
They want you to keep on doing that, right? It's like Prince, it's like Purple Rain. They always wanted him to do that over and over. He purposely, and some tours, he purposely would not sing the song.
Yeah, good for him.
It's like, I am not there.
Yeah.
I went to a show one time. I was in Minneapolis, and there were all these purple heads there, and he was in his house. I was actually at Paisley Park, and he was in this phase where he was doing like a 3-piece kind of cream power trio type of thing. He didn't want to have anything to do with 1999 or Purple Rain. He was in this kind of cream phase. He was like in a Hendrixian experience phase. That's what he wanted to do.
Yep.
I kind of got it, but there were some fans that were saying, well, how come he won't do it?
Right.
Well, this is his house. This is where he lives. He doesn't want to do it. I was cool with like, but this is not where he is.
Yeah.
But these other fans that were like, oh, how come he won't do it? It's like, well, because that's not what he wants to do.
Right. Right. We got to follow ourselves. I love it.
Yeah, it's hard for I think a lot of times in art, people want you, especially with the algorithms today,
Well,
in the
yeah.
social media world, is like you're supposed to just do what million people want to see,
Yeah.
or on a stream, you got to get a billion streams on Spotify to make any money.
Yeah.
And
Well,
if you go way under that, then like you're not commercially successful. But some people are like, I don't want to play that game.
yeah.
I'd rather put out vinyl
Right.
and have a limited edition vinyl that I run myself and actually do the project I want to do.
Right.
And I don't care if it doesn't sell more than 1,000 or 2,000. It's like, that's where I am.
Right.
And it's like these other people are playing this other game, and it's like, well, I'm not in that game.
Right. Yeah. You got to honor where you are. I cannot play that game. I can't do it. I just can't.
Yeah.
It's too icky.
Yeah. It just doesn't, it feels like, am I paying for is I'm doing what the actuary wants me to do or what the accountant wants me to do?
Right.
Or am I doing what I want to do?
Right.
And so the problem is if you get yourself hung up in some of these contracts as artists, is like you can get yourself locked into that you do have to do
Right.
what actually kills you as an artist. Like you don't really want it. You see these musicians sometimes they're locked into this thing and it's killing them.
Yeah.
Because they really don't want to be where they are.
Yeah.
But they contractually signed up because they didn't really
know.
push what they really wanted.
Yeah.
They pushed what they thought they wanted.
Right. 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 And then there's only one way to find out, because when we know, we know.
Yeah, I think it's interesting when you have that looking glass self, like the Victorians always talked about. I love the Victorian poets had this idea of the looking glass self and that self-examination where you actually take the hard look and are you really satisfied? You go out, like is nature is the cathedral. Nature will restore you. Like
Right.
the inner self, you really do a self-examination. You're not just trying to satisfy some earthly goal.
Right.
You're looking for something higher than that. Or you're looking for something deeper than that.
Yeah.
And that's where like, oh, this guy's he's not playing the game.
Yeah. I tend to piss a lot of people off because I'm not very good at playing the game.
So a soul portrait, like what's your definition of what that is? Because it's probably different for everybody, but you have your own definition of what it means to you.
Well, for me, like we all, in my personal belief system, is that we all have a soul. I feel like we come in pretty connected to that part of ourselves, and with early experiences and conditioning, we grow a distance from it, and depending on our experiences, we kind of get layered upon layer upon layer further away from that sense of self and soulful self. And soul portraits for me came about when I really needed to get back in touch with my own power, my own sovereignty. And I just started ripping up everything around me, mostly out of frustration and deep heartbreak. And I put it in, and I'm traditionally trained, oil on canvas and all the 9,000,000 hours of doing and drawing and painting accurately, which again got really boring for me. I could never do that now. I used to do portraiture a long time ago, and I thought it was so fun. And now it sounds like a nightmare. But I'm really impressed with people who have the patience for that. And I ended up actually using a blade a lot of people do this, but when I was in college and I'm learning how to paint with oil, I was using so much paint at the time and moving so quickly that it just became a very muddy mess. And so I ended up using my mixing blade as my application tool so that it wouldn't like stir up all the layers of paint that I was using. And then I used that for 20 years. And occasionally I would always have I would always have a side project going, and a side project occasionally had mixed media in it. So letters, drawings, photographs,
like a
stuff
collage type of thing, like
yeah, stuff from nature, poems, like things that weren't all mine, but really felt inspirational and could say things better than I ever could. And
mhm,
so I started incorporating those things into my work through sort of sprinkled throughout my career. But when I was really struggling and very afraid of like looking under the hood of what am I going to, all these people are so upset with me, and I don't know how to handle the way I'm being perceived. So
mhm,
instead of ignoring it and just leaving all of those like hideous letters in a box, so I had a box, right, of love letters and hate letters, and I opened them up and I started rereading them, and it was really cathartic. And I just started ripping them up and gluing them down and putting them on a canvas in sort of like a rush of intuition and
mhm,
following myself. And I realized that I was taking apart, disassembling these ideas that I had about myself, this story, this identity, these limiting beliefs, this sort of glass ceiling on who I could be. And I was like, wow, it's that easy. Like I can just decide not to believe what people are saying, and it's
mhm.
just not
Very
true.
freeing. Well,
Yeah,
you end up giving yourself power by
exactly.
diving into the things that, like, maybe some people, if they get that, they get those criticisms, and then they kind of bury it,
Right.
or they don't deal with it dead on.
Well,
But
we're
then
so
as an artist, when you actually embrace this, okay, I'm gonna take it and then I'm gonna use it
right.
as actually like it's a part of my toolbox.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't go intentionally into it saying I'm gonna deal with this way. I just did it.
You just
And
went into it like flow state, just in the moment.
totally. And looking back over the years, like creativity had always been a release valve. Like it had always allowed me to connect to myself and also kind of release some of the gunk that had been buried and stuffed down that I wasn't ready to handle yet. And that's okay too. I
Mhm,
think that creativity is really lovely in that way, that it meets us where we are.
mhm.
And there's no pushing. It's just, I mean, we can and we want to push to a certain degree. So again, so we can take risks, but it's risks about being more ourselves, risk being more authentic, risk being
More vulnerable, maybe.
it's, yeah, exactly. And so when I didn't have anything else to lose, that's when I was like, okay, let's go for the big guns here.
Go for
But
broke.
yeah, and then that happened, and in that moment, halfway through this painting, I was like, oh, holy shit, this, I feel different, right? I can't believe that I'm okay. Like I actually feel better and freer, and I just did something that changed my relationship with who I thought I had to be, who I was trained to be, who
Mm,
I was conditioned to be, and I could just rip that up. And so it was a very somatic experience. And I mean,
yeah,
I didn't know what that was. Like I
yeah.
didn't the
You
language.
kinda healed yourself. I mean, like people, like, if you really dive into your inner self
Yeah.
and break through your walls and break through the onion, unlayer, unwrap the onion.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
kinda go back to the inner child, you start going back to, like, the pain points. Like, the people love about singer-songwriters, they would dive into the pain.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, when you have a really good songwriter, they kinda unleash it.
Yeah.
They unleash the kind of dark corners of your psyche. You pull it out. You pull out the id and the ego and the super ego. You're pulling it all out,
Yep.
let it hang out
Yep.
and finding a way to weave it right
Right.
into a coherent or maybe somewhat incoherent, but like you figure out how, different songwriters have different approaches of how they weave that story. But a
Right.
lot of times what happens is it speaks to you. It
That's right.
speaks to the audience because like you're pulling in something. I think it's a universal truth.
It's real.
It's
It's
like when
something real.
yeah, and people find those universal truths, they like it speaks to them. Like when people see your painting, they see what calls to them, right?
That's right.
When people hear a song, they hear the part that speaks to what they felt, the pain they felt,
Yeah.
and
That's
that's
right.
what we channel through. Is that we're able to channel that emotional. impact.
Yeah.
And we want it to have, we don't want it just to be, oh, it's just a shiny new thing. We want it to be a little deeper than a shiny new thing.
Yeah, for sure. And it's all of it, right? It's allowing for all of it. I mean, I don't want to dismiss all the shiny new things. They're great. And I just like what you were saying, how one part of your life is very logical and what is that, left brain, and the other part is very emotional or emotionally intelligent and in the flow state, and they're a balance. They always go together. They might be very far apart, but they still are related. They're tethered. We can't have, the light without the dark. We can't have an in breath without the out breath. Like, it's all connected. And so I just want to bring that balance in and awareness to, like, lived experience. And so that's what soul portraits are really about, is how to honor where you've been so you can really become who you are, away from all the gunk, right? There's so much gunk, and to let that go as we're ready, and to have a tool, like an actual tangible physical tool, as a way to walk through that and honor that in order to release it. Because releasing stuff without awareness or without acceptance isn't, you can't release it if you haven't accepted it. It just doesn't work. It'll just keep showing up because it needs real acceptance.
Like the universe will keep on giving you the lesson until you learn it.
Correct. For better or for worse.
We keep on, like, how come this pattern keeps on happening? Because you haven't figured out what it's telling you.
Exactly.
Right? And then when you finally realize, it's like, I need to dive into this and figure it out.
Yeah.
And maybe you won't fully figure it out. Maybe it's going to be like a journey. You're going to have to, like, it's not all going to get solved in this particular instance, because it's something like you still have to learn.
Right.
And a lot of times, like, well, that's not very satisfying, because some people, they want the immediacy of, like, I want the answer now.
Right.
And sometimes the world doesn't give you the answer right now.
Sometimes it doesn't. And yet I really have felt like I've watched people transform their relationship to some part of themselves. Like, they've been talking about it for years. They've been, I don't know, reliving it for years. And then they approach it in a different way, like really just engaging with it without judgment. And everything shifts. Like, it really does shift. And it does it sort of at this subconscious level where you don't have to understand it intellectually, cognitively.
Mm-hmm.
It sort of works on your system. And over time, you're like, oh, wait a second, I haven't had that pattern for 6 months and I didn't even know it wasn't here. It's super subtle.
Yeah. Sometimes the subtlety of life is very interesting. And, like, when you learn to listen, like a lot of times people say, well, you got listening skills, but sometimes you have to listen to your spirit. Like, it's like a indigenous idea. Is like, you listen to your ancestors, and they're talking to you, but you were ignoring them.
Yes.
Right. Because you didn't want to hear it. And then suddenly there's this day where you actually hear in the woods the spirit of your ancestors. They actually they're telling you something they were telling you before.
Yeah.
But you weren't ready to hear it.
That's right.
And then in that moment, you're walking on that trail and it's like, boom. Oh, now I know what they were telling me.
That's exactly right.
That's like, it's just this thing that happens if you're in tune. Like, and sometimes you're not in tune because you're not ready to hear it. You're like in this dissonance. You're in a dissonant moment.
Yep.
You can't get to harmony. You're not going to be harmonious. You're not going to have any kind of harmony in this moment because you're not in the state to actually receive it.
That's right.
And sometimes art it will have that dissonance. Like, if you're into, like, well, I get into like punk or like grunge or dissonant music. You think about like Brian Eno and David Bowie in Berlin. They were getting into a lot of weird dissonant tones that weren't very harmonious.
Right.
They were playing with a lot of different ideas of, like, just like Brian Eno would go on a board and do notes and chord arrangements that don't work together. And then there were studio musicians that were looking at it and said, well, that doesn't work. I said, well, it works for this song.
Yeah, I love that.
It's like it's hard to. There were people, like, they were like Berkeley trained musicians that were like, you shouldn't put that together. It's gonna work in this song.
Right.
It actually needs to be together.
Right.
And that's the thing where you kind of have to push what is considered acceptable,
Right.
or what is acceptable, what is supposed to be the practice thing to do.
Right.
And then you go outside of it, and everybody's like, well, why are you going there?
Yeah. I think that's so great when people do that. I first really admire the courage because I know that it's hard to step out of the box. It is vulnerable. You were
Yeah.
saying that earlier. And so when people are willing to do that, they are the way shower for the rest of us, to say, hey, it's not only cool to do this, it's really advantageous. Like we become more of ourselves, and it's like, why not risk?
It's so interesting because a lot of people will tell you, like, yeah, I mean, my corporate hat, you run into like these executives, you run into like entrepreneurs. Now, say they want out of the box thinking,
Right.
right? But then they proceed to build a work environment that puts you in the cube.
Totally.
And I'm like, if you want somebody who's neurodivergent, right, or somebody that's going to come up with idea, but they probably are neurodivergent, right?
Yeah.
And they're not going to work 9 to 5.
No.
Right? They're not going to work within your paradigm, and you think you're going to capture lightning in the bottle, and you're talking it like you're saying you want that person that's going to have that lightning in the bottle, but you're not actually setting up the environment that's conducive to that.
That's right.
And then it's like then you wonder, like, why doesn't it happen? It's like, because you've got the vanilla environment. You're
That's
not going to
exactly
get
right.
any spice out of that.
That's exactly right. Well said.
It's
Well
like
said.
it's always because they're so like, oh, well, how come it doesn't work? It's like, 'cause not everything is gonna work with that logical mind, like with that machine mind. Like, and this is, I think, the big problem with AI,
Oh yeah.
because AI, at the end of the day, it's it's an algorithm. It's it's tech,
Right.
and it seems like it's creative. You're trying to say it's sentient, and it's not. Right,
Right.
and so because it gives you something that maybe appears to be on a surface very superficial intelligence, that, oh, that's like a human,
Right.
but it really isn't. It's a mimicry. It's like being able to put together a collage that seems convincing
Right.
that it was actually coming from the soul,
Right.
but it didn't come from the soul. It
Well,
came
if
from an algorithm.
so, what if the people who are creating it though are creating from a soulful place? I mean, it's still put into tech and algorithm. So there's some marriage there happening. There's some overlap or bridge between the two.
There's pieces of it that have human spark, because you're actually capturing. See, what I think people don't get is, like if you have an image, like, it might have been captured from a human like enterprise. Like, the human artist actually drew that, and it grabbed it, right? So that has a spark of humanity in it,
Right.
but the machine took it maybe out of context
Right.
and then placed it. So then it seems like it does, because it has some spark in human, because humans were involved in the workflow,
Right.
but
Right.
it's not fully coming from, like, if it came from, like a just an artist, like, that's just on the canvas, or putting that work, and it's all heart, and there's no machine. It's all, pastels and oils and whatever. And it's, graphite. They did that in that moment.
Right.
If I
And there,
scan that and give it to the machine library, it might do a variation of that, and it might be unrecognizable, but it still came from that human. That's where we are now.
it is where we are now. I'm really curious about where we're going. I wonder what's going to happen.
Well, I can use it like a tech, in terms of like a
Right.
musician, right? AI, I can have an AI go and take a bass line I wrote
Mhm.
and then run it in different variations. So I actually played it, but then it runs variations and makes it unrecognizable of what I actually did. I can use it as a tool to kind of warp what I had originally done,
But
to
that's
give
still
me
you
different.
reading it the whole time,
Yeah.
which is really neat.
That's a cool way. But then what I wonder is when somebody actually doesn't have any hand in the original, it's all prompt and say, give me something that's like this, like that, like that. And it's not, it's really pulling from the library,
Right.
but it didn't take any real piece of you other than your prompt.
Right.
And then I wonder, like, okay, what is that?
Oh, that's a great question. That's a really good question. I wonder too. Like
Because
varying degrees of our humanness.
yeah, because you get to this point, I was talking to a tech bro, and he was saying, "Oh, the machine will be able to replace all artists and all musicians, all actors, and we do have now an AI actor that's being pitched."
Oh
And
yeah.
out in the world, there's this company figured out how to build this actress, or they created an AI actress, and they're pitching them to be actually in movies and projects.
Wow.
And they're not a person; it's a total AI invention.
Huh.
And the question is like their actor guild, the unions are like, I don't know about this. We don't know if we want this.
Well, and what is it going to feel like to watch that? And so, what is our human experience going to do? And that's, I think, the key component, right? Like, what is it going to be like to receive that kind of experience? That's the question. I know that when I have played around with AI and AI images, because I can't always, in the moment, I could go down and create what I'm looking for, but I don't always have time. And I've asked AI to do it, and it just has never hit the mark, like never, ever, ever. And even when it gets close, I'm too picky about what isn't. Yeah. And then I'm like, it just doesn't feel right. Like there's something that
You
feels
can just
off.
go in and do it yourself.
Well,
Like
yeah,
that.
yeah. But even so, like then I just am like, nah, like even then it's just the feeling of engaging with something that is, it just has a different energy. Like I think of everything in terms of energy.
Energy. Yeah, it does. It does. Like if you're playing in a band, right?
Yeah.
If I'm playing in a band and I've got a drum machine versus a drummer,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been in bands where like, oh, the drummer didn't show up, so we're using the 808.
Yep.
Right? We're using the drum machine.
Sure.
But as soon as the drummer shows up, we throw out what the 808 gave us.
That's exactly right.
Because the drummer actually adds a feel. And when you have a very good drummer, drums are like so basic to a composition
Yes.
that when you have a very good drummer, they know their stuff and they actually give you that secret sauce that you want. And I don't know if musicians today would, oh, I can just replicate that with the machine. It's like, I'm sorry, but there's something about a very good percussionist that was always going to outdo the machine. And it's kind of like, okay, if I don't have them there, then I'll use the machine because they're not there. But if they're there, I'm going to use the person.
100% agreement with you on that one.
And it's I think where we're at now is like I worry about a generation of artists that don't pay their dues in terms of like you've got to get that level of practice. Like, like when you're playing a musician, like there's a point where your parents, nobody wanted to hear you.
That's true.
You have to get through that period where nobody wants to hear you at all. Right?
Yes.
Then you get to that point where everybody loves to hear you, right? But now if you can skip steps.
You can.
With this tool, like you could get to a point where like, oh, you never saw me fail.
Right.
You never saw my accidents. You never saw what my unintended consequences were. All you see is everything that I hit the social media and it's perfect and it's like this and I got the billion views and everybody got that million likes. It's like you have to kind of pay your dues in the trenches and do the work.
Well, I think that as human beings, we actually have a really good bullshit meter. And if those dues haven't been paid, no one's going to trust you, right? It's a level of trust that, and again, that experience and that energetic knowing when somebody is being real with you, when somebody hasn't skipped the steps, when they know what they're talking about, when they know what it's like. To have an experience that's really dark or to have an experience that's really enlightening. So I think that we know and we can tell when somebody's manipulating us or not being.
Yeah, it doesn't feel Yeah, you get people today are like they're looking at like the content in movies,
Right.
right? And looking at the movies like, how come we don't have the like, in the indie film world, yeah, there's always in the underground, there's always something amazing.
Yes.
But what's hitting to the public space compared to like you look in the 1970, you're like 1974,
Hmm.
or you look at 1968, 1966 in the film world,
Yes.
and you see what was being produced.
Yep.
And then you look at 2025, it's like, okay, like, is this really help? Are these tools helping me or
Right.
helping the art, or are they not giving me anything substantially powerful that's really pushing my buttons and really making me feel?
Right.
That's kind of my gauge. Is like, okay, well, you have all these tools, but I'm not feeling like what I felt when I watched, anything that Orson Welles did.
Right.
You know, if I
And
watch
that's
The Third Man or like Touch of Evil, I was like, I don't see you doing that.
right. And I mean, so what kind of human are we creating? So what level of, yeah, what are, so the emptiness that's happening, the lack of meaning, the sort of constant need for attention. And the reason that I see, like, I have kids, and they can do like a movie and some kind of social media platform and text all at the same time, and I can only do one thing at once and get anything out of it. And so my sense is that they're not getting very much out of any of them, but need or believe at this time,
Multitasking.
well, and that they need that. And I'm like, I think that's just, we're so afraid to be with ourselves. We're, for the most part, like in general, we're pretty afraid to get quiet and to slow down and to see what shows up. And that is a hard thing to do. It can be uncomfortable. And then it's also where the magic happens. And I know you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, definitely. Like if you have people go to an art gallery in
Mhm.
the modern 2025, how long do they actually sit at a painting and try to get it? Right?
Yeah.
Do they just keep on? Because of our short attention spans, are they actually even getting out of that painting what's really there? Right?
Right.
Have they been through an art history class? Did they actually do any work as a fan, right, of the art to actually get to a level where you could have some criticism or have some understanding of what it is? Like reading a book. You get people, used to read 300,000 word books,
Wow.
right? Count books. Now today, the average count is like 60,000, 50,000.
Huh.
People can't stay in the book
Yeah.
as a form. They can't stay into it because they're so distracted by all these other things.
Yeah.
So so the authors can't give you the detail that they used to
Right.
because maybe you didn't have 200 channels, you didn't have the net. So
Right.
you would stay in the book
Right.
and actually get out of the book what you get out of all these other devices
Yeah.
at the same time. So now you're not paying attention to the film. So the film can't have all the little nuggets in it, and where you might have to sit there and really process it. You're on your phone, you're on your iPad, you're on your
Right.
PS5 or whatever at the same time,
Right. You miss
where
the nuggets.
you don't pick up what's actually in there.
Right. It's there, but you don't notice it.
Yeah. So it's like as an artist today, like do you care about the attention span of the fan or the audience? Or you just
No,
do what you were gonna do anyway?
I personally do what I'm going to do anyway, always. Just because I can't do it any other way. Like, I have tried, uh, because you want to make money, or you want to please people, or you want to have more quote unquote achievement, but it's so unfulfilling. And so I just couldn't do it. But, really what I have found, and most, so people will come into my studio. I started opening up my studio, and people would come in and they would stay for hours, and we'd get into these incredible conversations. And meanwhile, people either would come in and join us, they'd look around, they'd join the conversation, or they'd come in and leave. And my work can make people very uncomfortable, and it's
Mhm.
partly because I can't make you comfortable. Like I'm
Yeah.
not
Yeah,
intending
they're
to,
just there to make you comfortable.
well, and I'm not intending to like, oh, I'm going to do something that makes you want, like my
Yeah.
intention. I'm just following myself. And
But you're following where you want to go as an artist, and like some people might do some pastoral setting that's not going to be controversial, and
and
some
that's
artists might do something that's like it's designed to maybe
become
ask a question, and maybe that question's hard for you. You
may,
know,
maybe like I'm like trying to get into the why anybody makes what they make, or thinking that I know how to judge it, which I don't, because there's plenty of work that I really don't like, but people love it. And then there's
Mhm.
plenty of my work that people are like, why can't you paint something nicer? And I'm like, what does that mean?
But it's
Like,
nice, but it's not
what's nicer?
controversial.
Yeah, like what the heck is that? And it's like smile more. I'm like, why? Or why not? Like why?
But if I'm not feeling the need to smile, I don't have to smile for you.
Exactly.
But there seems to be like a certain kind of societal. I was a sociology major, and there's
Oh
this
yeah.
this idea of like the social mores.
Right.
So the people would pay it, or the person that's depressed, or the person that's moody, or the person that's more like artists tend to have the ability to not have to be in a social group as often as some people, because they can satisfy themselves by having their alone time creates their work,
Right.
right? So they can necessarily not be like the person that's going to go along to get along,
Yeah.
because they're willing to actually be in their head, like,
Yep.
or be in that space where I don't need to be part of this group to be happy. Right? I can be happy creating the art,
Right.
and it's outside that social group.
Right.
So that gets some people concerned when the power structure is like, I can't control this person.
Right. Right.
Because the artists tend to be like, well, I'm going to challenge the social mores. I'm not going to do
Yeah.
what you want me to do,
Right.
because I'm just going to be obstinate. I'm not going to do it because that's
Right.
not where I'm at. And sometimes the social structure is they want you to be there,
Of
but
course.
you're not there.
No.
So that's a concern.
Yes. That is true and well said. And again, like never my intention. Like, I'm not trying to go out and stir the pot. I just tend to naturally do that,
Yeah, it's just your
unfortunately.
nature.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I
Or
mean, a lot of times the artist's nature is to kind of stir the pot, and it's like,
yeah.
"Oh, why are you doing that?" Because like, it's not like I intended to do it; it just happened to do it.
Mhm.
It happened to like, oh, it could be not what this group wants, but that you don't have to like it,
That's true.
because it's all of attraction. Like the people who like it
Like it.
will find it. They're on the frequency. They get it. Like just
That's
because you
right.
don't get it doesn't mean you have to ban it.
Right.
Doesn't mean you don't have to. You have to like de defund it.
Right. Right.
Like just let it be. Like why not? It's not your cup of tea. That's fine.
Right.
Because like everybody has their voice. Like that's the thing about art is like finding a voice. Like and then realizing that your voice, should have a permission structure to be.
Right.
And you get to
Well,
that point at some point, you realize that your voice should be. That's why you create.
that's right. And everybody's voice matters, and that can sound so condescending and sort of like a rote statement, but I really mean it. And when people take the risk to share their authenticity, their authentic voice, their vulnerability, I appreciate it so much. I really applaud it.
Well, I think that's what we have the space, and we're hitting our hour mark. We always hit it quicker than we ever imagined. But we do have the QR code here. I want to reiterate to people that maybe didn't know what this is. This is actually the same as your soul portrait art inner voice. And so you take the modern technology or your phone and
Right.
take the camera, you actually will go to that site. So if people click on your inner voice website there, what happens if they click on it?
So that's actually a free exercise just to give people a taste of what it's like to let your intuition guide you, and to see what comes up and to see what you learn about yourself, and to get an idea of what I mean by using creativity to connect to yourself. And that's the whole point. And the more you do that, the more empowered you become, because you don't really need, like, yes, we need community and we want connection. And when we first connect to ourselves, the connections we make outside of us are so much stronger. And so for me, creativity is really about growing that connection to ourselves first, so that we can have the kind of relationships outside of ourselves that we desire, and to show up more authentically as who we are. So the inner voice is a free exercise. And then that's my Instagram. And if people end up signing up for the inner voice, then they're probably going to get a whole bunch of emails from me that they may or may not want, and they can always unsubscribe from that. And the soulportrait.art /workshop will take you to another landing page where people can know more about workshops, and also sign up for in a place where they can, sorry, I got distracted, where they can like book a group soul portrait workshop, or something where they can do it for a 50th wedding anniversary, or a high school graduation, or whatever that is. Whatever works for them. I have a lot of fun working with people.
Well, we wanted to let people know we do have that new way of connecting with the QR code, or you can wait until we're off the air. And then within the podcast description, we've just been on LinkedIn and YouTube. You can click directly on those links because they're active URLs. Cool. And we will be on other channels like Spotify video podcast, Apple podcast, iHeartRadio, Amazon podcast, and the Newsly Network. And I wanted to thank you for being a guest on the show today.
I'm happy to be here. It was really nice chatting with you.
Thank you. Well, have a good night. And again, people can check this out. If you want to check it out, again, it's out there on LinkedIn and YouTube, and we'll provide a landing page for your audience by the end of the day tomorrow for all the platforms that we're on. People can just pick whatever platform they like. But thank you again.
Thanks so much.